Are you worried about a recession or an economic slowdown? If so, you're not alone. But really, you have two choices. The one thing you can do is you can just watch the news all day and worry, or you can actually take some concrete steps to do something about it. And so what I want to do in this video is to give you 6 different steps that you can take to prepare for a recession or an economic slowdown so you can move beyond worrying. And if you follow these tips, you'll be able to weather this storm just fine. But first, my name is Kevin Lum. I'm a certified financial planner, and I help people have the knowledge they need to retire without worry. If you enjoy this content, if you could click the like button, subscribe, ding the bell, and please leave a comment. And as a reminder, I am a financial advisor, but I'm not your financial advisor. So nothing I say in this episode should be taken as financial advice. So let's begin by first answering the question, what is a recession? Now, I did a whole video going more in depth in this question and that you can access here. But essentially, a recession is where the economy slows down and unemployment rises. People lose their job. Put another way, a recession is when the economy stops growing and starts shrinking. Now, it can be caused by a number of factors, such as decrease in consumer spending, a rise in interest rates, asset bubbles popping, or at times it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If people think we're going to enter a recession, they begin to save and begin to get scared, and then we enter a recession. Or it can be a combination of all the above. Now, there are a couple of issues with recession. One is it's hard to know you're in a recession until the data comes out. And by the time you receive the data that tells you, yeah, you were in a recession, you might actually already be on the way out of a recession. This is one of the reasons it's so hard to time the market, because the stock market is a forward-looking instrument. So by the time we realize we're in a recession, the markets can have already begun to improve. Now, recessions are a very normal part of the business economic cycle, and they last on average about 10 months. But every so often, and this is just a little aside, but every so often people ask, so what's the difference between a recession and a depression? Now, I don't think we're anywhere near a depression, but one of my favorite answers is a recession is when your neighbor loses their job. A depression is when you lose your job. But in reality, a depression is just an extended and severe recession. So what are the steps you can take to survive an economic slowdown or recession? And honestly, these steps are great to take no matter what the economy is. But the first thing you want to do is you want to get rid of credit card debt. You want to reduce revolving debt because interest rates often rise along with recession. And one way to tackle this is simply to get a low interest personal loan, maybe from a local credit union, or to sign up for a balance transfer credit card. You can dig out of a debt a lot faster if you're not paying a high interest rate. So, I saw something the other day where you could get an 18 months, 0% APR on balance transfer. So you take your high interest credit card and you transfer to the 0% credit card, and then you try to pay that off over the next 18 months. If you can't qualify for a 0% credit card, call your current credit card issuer and ask them for an interest rate reduction. I just read recently that 70% of people who asked for a reduction in their credit card interest rate in the past year got one. So the first thing you need to do is pay off your credit card debt. The second thing you need to do, and this is related to the first because it will actually help, but improve your credit score. As you're heading into an economic downturn, if you ever needed to borrow money because you were in a real jam, you want to make sure your credit score is improved. Now, not going to go into all the different steps here, but the biggest thing you can do is make sure you pay your payments on time, and then also reduce the amount of utilized credit. That's why paying off your credit cards is really going to help reduce your credit or increase your credit score. The other thing you might want to do is download the Credit Karma app. It will give you an update on your credit, where you stand, anything that's a problem in your credit. It'll even give you some tips of how to improve your credit. And the best part, it'll give you a credit score that's not exactly what a lender would see, but it'll give you a really good idea of where you are on your credit journey. So anyway, Credit Karma, you can download that. So first thing you do, pay off your credit card. Second thing you need to do is work on improving your credit score. The third thing you need to do is track your spending. A lot of people get nervous at the idea of keeping a budget. Honestly, I'm not good at keeping a budget. But you do need to know where your money is going. How much are you spending on streaming services? How much are you spending on groceries? How much are you spending on DoorDash, or whatever the different things in your life are? You might be surprised to find exactly where your money is going. And once you have a handle on your spending, you can then make the necessary adjustments. But more importantly, you'll be able to evaluate your spending. I think one of the greatest tragedies in personal finance isn't overspending, believe it or not. It's spending money on things you don't care about. So many of us are on autopilot and we're wasting a fortune on things that we don't really value, partially because marketers are manipulating us. So it's good sometimes just to stop and to look at your spending and ask, does the way I'm spending my money align with what I really care about and what I really value in life? And so by tracking your spending for a couple of months and get really granular, like every penny you spend, write it out. Where is my money going? Get really granular. Track every penny you spend. And what that will allow you to do is then to begin to figure out, where can I decrease my spending and increase my financial reserves? Because when a recession is on its way, you want to decrease spending and increase cash. And I actually have a simple process that I walk my clients through. It's cheesy, I know, but it's called the CAN process. Can I reduce my spending? And it's 3 letters, CAN, CAN. The first is cut. Where can I cut my expenses? So now you've got this list, right? You've been tracking your expenses over the past couple of months. Then I would take those expenses and divide them into 2 buckets. The first bucket is fixed expenses. There are some things that you just can't cut, right? You have to have a home. Maybe you could move to someplace that's less expensive, but you're going to need a roof over your head. If you have a car, you're going to have to pay for car insurance. You need a phone. There are a few things that are fixed expenses. But the other bucket could be discretionary expenses. DoorDash, Netflix, whatever the thing is in your life that you could live without. Maybe life would be less fun, but in a jam, you could cut that expense. And then maybe even prioritize those expenses. So if you end up losing your job, you immediately know, okay, these are the things I could cut immediately and I wouldn't miss them too much. And then you can kind of work your way up the list depending on the severity of the financial crisis that you're in. So the first thing you need to do is ask, where can I cut my expenses? Then the next thing, this is the A, so C is cut. The next is A, assets. What assets do I have that I can sell or that I can leverage? So something I do once a month is I walk around the house, I look in the closet, I look around the garage, I go to the backyard and just say, is there anything that I have that I can sell? And this isn't even because I need the money, but is there anything that's just wasting space in my house that I could sell, get out of it, create less clutter in my life, but also increase my cash reserves or have more money to invest? So what can you sell? And then also, what can you leverage? Do you have, a back house? Do you have a travel trailer? Do you have an extra car? All of those things can be rented out to other people, either on Airbnb or Turo, or there's even another website, and I'm blanking on what website it is right now, but you can rent out your travel trailer. So are there any assets that you can leverage to be able to raise additional cash? So cut your expenses, figure out what assets that you can leverage or sell. And then finally, the N in the CAN process is negotiate. Are there any bills that you have that you can negotiate the rate down? Maybe you're not ready to cut it yet, but you want to pay a little less. So, I've negotiated down my cable bill, my internet. I've even negotiated down cell phone contracts or looked at a less expensive carrier. So, you can get almost an identical cell phone plan through Spectrum or through Comcast that's on the Verizon network that's almost half the price of going directly through Verizon. So could you cut your bill that way if you can't negotiate the price down? Then the other thing you should do is reshop your home and auto insurance. Use a broker, and every couple of years, just try to find out, is there a cheaper company out there that offers similar coverage? And you'll be shocked at how much money you can save. I mean, once I ended up saving like, $1,200 a year simply from switching from one car insurance carrier to another. So every so often, reshop your home and auto insurance, anything else, that even some of the fixed expenses in life. Say, is there a way I could reduce my spending? So first thing you need to do is cut. Next thing you need to do is leverage or sell some assets. And then finally, negotiate some of your expenses down. So now that you've figured out where your spending is going and you've hopefully increased your cash flow, maybe you're keeping a little bit more of your money, the next thing you want to do is you want to increase your emergency savings. Because when a recession comes or an economic downturn comes, it takes people by surprise. Now, typically, when life is good, I recommend that clients have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up in an emergency fund. And this will cover your bills if you lose your job or if you have a major unexpected expense, the air conditioning goes out in your home or whatever it might be, you don't have to go into debt. But I would adjust this depending on your situation. So if you're in retirement, you might want to expand that to 2 years of emergency savings because that allows you to take a bit more risk in your investment portfolio, which can end up saving you or making you a lot of extra money over the long run. I see sometimes that retirees have too conservative of a portfolio because they're worried about not having enough cash flow. And in the long run, they cost themselves a lot of money and it can actually put themselves more at risk of having enough money to retire on. So if you're in retirement, you might want to have a couple of years of emergency savings. If you work for a startup, you work for a tech company, something that's highly volatile, you probably want to have at least a year of savings in case you lose your job. I have a number of clients that work for tech companies and startups, and right now they've either lost their jobs or they're worried about losing their job. If that's you, if you're in a highly volatile industry, you probably want to have at least a year's savings. If not, if you're in a pretty stable industry, like I said, 3 to 6 months, and kind of the rule of thumb I use on that is 3 to 6 months of expenses. If it's a 2 income family, both jobs are fairly stable, 3 months of expenses should be plenty. But if if it's just a single family or a single income family, you want to have 6 months. And then if you're in a highly volatile industry, you want to have at least a year. Next, now that you've got that out of the way, you've got some more cash reserves. Don't try to time the market. A lot of folks want to get out of the stock market the moment things start getting crazy, but that's always the wrong time. It's impossible to know the best time to get out of the market and then to know when to jump back in. I'm not going to bore you with my own personal story, but in 2009, 2010, thought I was super clever, super smart. I tried timing the market with some of my own personal money. I know not to do it with clients' money, but I thought, I'm a financial advisor. I know what I'm doing. And I ended up losing a lot of money. It's impossible to know what's going to happen. So just stay invested. Now, if you can't sleep at night, then you're over invested and you need to take some money off the table. If it's causing you worry, that means you have way too much money invested in the market. Now, let me just quickly recap. In short, there are a few things you can do to prepare for a recession or an economic downturn. And honestly, you should do this even in good economic times. Get rid of your credit card debt. Work on improving your credit score. Track your spending, not forever, but just enough time to give you a good idea of where your money is going. Decrease your spending and increase your cash reserves. Save up an emergency fund. And finally, don't try to time the market. Stay invested. These tips will help you thrive, not only survive, but thrive during an economic downturn. Thanks for watching. If this content was helpful, please click the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment, share it with your friends and your family. And also, we've set up a private Facebook group for people who are nearing retirement or who are already retired, or maybe just like the idea of being retired. You can ask questions about planning for retirement, trade tips and tricks, and ask about taxes and all kinds of different things. I'll be in there answering questions. And so you can find the link in the show notes below.